This is a white raven. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering your spouse has been replaced. Not by someone similar, not by a stranger, by a perfect copy. Same face, same voice, same memories, same habits, same laugh. Now, imagine something worse. Imagine both versions insist they are the original, and one of them is telling the truth. Tonight's story begins with a missing husband and ends with a question no one can answer. 6 months earlier, David Carter disappeared. One minute, he was driving home from a business trip. The next, gone. His abandoned car was eventually discovered near Route 9A, not far from exit 13. The police searched for weeks. Nothing. No body. No suspects. No evidence. Eventually, the case went cold. His wife, Rebecca, tried to move on. She had no choice. Bills needed paying. Life continued. People expected her to heal. But grief isn't a switch. It doesn't turn off. Every night, she left the porch light on, just in case. Then, one rainy evening, the front door opened, and David walked inside. Alive! Rebecca dropped the coffee mug she was holding. The mug shattered. Neither of them noticed. David looked exhausted, thin, dirty, terrified, but alive. Rebecca, her knees nearly gave out. She ran into his arms. For the first time in 6 months, she felt whole again. The police were called. Questions followed. Doctors examined him. Investigators interviewed him. David claimed he remembered very little. He remembered driving, then walking inside an unfamiliar motel room, a motel called the Last Mile. After that, everything became blurry. Most people accepted the explanation. Rebecca wanted to. But strange things started happening. Little things. David sometimes forgot conversations they had only hours earlier. He stared at mirrors too long. He slept with his eyes partially open. And every night at exactly 3:13 a.m., he stood beside the bedroom window, watching the road, waiting. One morning, Rebecca found muddy footprints in the hallway, footprints leading from the front door to the bedroom. David claimed he knew nothing about them. The footprints appeared again the next night, and the next, always at 3:13 a.m., always leading inside. never outside. Then came the phone call. A frightened woman contacted Rebecca. Her voice shook. Your husband is here. Rebecca frowned. What? The woman sounded close to tears. He's sitting in my diner. Rebecca's blood ran cold because David was asleep upstairs, or at least he should have been. The woman sent a photo. Rebecca opened it and stopped breathing. David sat inside a roadside diner, smiling, looking directly at the camera. The timestamp showed the photo had been taken minutes earlier. Impossible. Rebecca ran upstairs. David remained asleep in bed, exactly where he had been, or so she thought. That night, she decided to test him. She asked questions only the real David could answer. First date, wedding location, favorite song, private memories. David answered perfectly. Every answer correct. Every memory intact. Then Rebecca asked one final question. A question she had never told anyone. What did you say to me before our wedding ceremony? David smiled and answered perfectly, word for word. Rebecca should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt terrified because she suddenly realized something. Nobody should remember that conversation, not even David. The words had been whispered softly in her ear during a moment she had never mentioned to another person. Yet, somehow, the answer was exact, too exact, as though someone had copied the memory directly from her mind. That night, she woke suddenly. The clock read 3:13 a.m. David wasn't beside her. She followed muddy footprints downstairs toward the front door. The door stood open. Rain poured outside, and two men stood on the porch. Both David. Rebecca froze. One wore pajamas. The other wore the clothes David disappeared in 6 months earlier. Both stared at each other. Neither looked surprised. Neither looked confused. Almost as if they had been expecting this moment. Rebecca, the first David said, don't listen to him. The second David shook his head. No. Then he pointed. That's not me. Rebecca felt her world collapsing. The two men began arguing, each claiming to be the original, each remembering identical details, each sharing identical scars. Identical memories, identical lives, until one of them said something unexpected. Ask us about room 6. Silence followed. The second David visibly flinched, only slightly, but Rebecca noticed. First David smiled. There it is. Rebecca stared. What is room 6? Neither answered immediately. Then both spoke at once. The place where they make copies. Thunder shook the house. The lights flickered. And suddenly, Rebecca noticed something horrifying. Neither David cast a reflection in the hallway mirror. Neither. Not one. Not the first. Not the second. Both were wrong. Both were copies. The two Davids turned toward her simultaneously and smiled. The same smile. The exact same smile. A smile she'd never seen before. Then both spoke in perfect unison. We were hoping you wouldn't notice. The lights, the lights died. Darkness consumed the house. Rebecca screamed, and somewhere outside, a car engine started. When the lights returned seconds later, the two Davids were gone. Only muddy footprints remained, leading toward the road, leading away from the house, leading toward Route 9A. Police searched for weeks. Nothing. No Davids. No evidence. No answers. Then, 6 months later, Rebecca received a package. No return address. Inside sat a VHS tape. One label, written in black marker. Room 13, David Carter. Rebecca never watched it. At least, that's what she told investigators. Years later, after Rebecca's death, the tape was finally reviewed. The footage showed Room 13. A terrified David sat tied to a chair, crying, begging, alive. The timestamp recorded the day after David came home, and behind him stood two identical Davids, smiling. One slowly turns toward the camera and says, "She's still living with one of us." Wow. Would you have watched the VHS tape? Would you have tried to find out what happened? Thank you for listening. This is the White Raven. If you like the story, please hit subscribe to the channel, hit the like and notification buttons, share it with someone you think might also enjoy it, leave a comment. I like listening about from you. If you have a story and you would like it narrated here, send it to the whiteravenstories at gmail.com. This was a White Raven. Till next time.